What's good, World Republic? Welcome back to another video. Editor Sly here. Glad you could make it. Before we start, please join the Discord community, link down below for me. When you click the link, the invite should appear as shown. Click accept invite for direct access to yours truly, your fellow community, as well as being notified every time we go live. You'll also be able to view all VODs from the Discord server, as well as any YouTube videos, and be notified when I post here on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, around 99% of you guys aren't subscribed to the channel. Make sure you fix that by hitting the subscribe button and turning on all notifications. If you do that, I can find the content for you and we can watch it together. Shout out to all my current subscribers as well as current subs on Twitch. We call y'all citizens, you feel me? And yeah, enjoy the video. What's good, YouTube? About another reaction. We have a video comprised with two of my favorite content creators when it comes to Ben 10. About a Doc himself, also featuring Ty. This is Ben 10 vs Luffy Isn't Fair. I'm sure Doc's gonna handle some of the Ben 10 stuff, even though Ty's made some videos on it, if I'm not mistaken. And then Ty's really probably gonna carry when it comes to like the One Piece scaling. He's been on a like run with One Piece videos. As always, I'm going to pre-file a like. Check the link in the description for the Discord community. Join that. It'll help you get direct access to contacting me, allow you to put recommendations in for the channel, as well as getting notified every time I go live. Also, every time I post on YouTube, which is twice daily. Without further ado, though, we're going to jump straight into the video.
After my recent Ben 10 vs Goku discussion, it got me thinking about pairing Ben 10 against other shonen protagonists, and who better than a personal favourite of mine and the main character from the highest selling manga with Monkey D. Luffy. Before we get into this proper, like I said in my previous video, I'm a huge fan of Ben 10 and I've been watching this series since it first aired in 2005, though that should be pretty evident enough by this channel. Coincidentally, I've also been a fan of One Piece since 2005 when it first aired, the 4Kids version on Toei.
I don't know if y'all saw that. I don't know how that happened, but my headphones got under my mic and like uppercutted my mic. It's still connected though. Let me check sound real quick. Make sure y'all not getting hood. Yeah. Okay, we're good. I'm gonna keep it running. I'm gonna grab like 2 waters. They're like right behind me.
TV. For those of you outside of Australia, that's most Australians' introduction to all things anime. And from there I started reading the manga and never stopped. While I'm not a power scaler by any means, and I don't really delve too deep into feats and crunching the numbers, I'm an enormous fan of both of these series and think 20 years of enjoyment should give me somewhat of a place to come at this from. And if that's not enough, stick around. I've brought someone more qualified on board for this one who will appear later in the video. Going into this, we'll be using a prime version of Ben from the end of Omniverse, only with a caveat of no Alien X, purely for the purpose of keeping this interesting.
I've always loved his accent, so it's interesting to figure out he's an Aussie. Because I just recently like saw from TikTok and figured out that Hugh Jackman's Australian as well, which I knew he had like an accent. I seen like bloopers, but he was singing like a song about he's an Aussie boy or whatever. So that's actually a tough little. You know what I'm saying? Now when I'm like, when I gotta name like 5 Australians, I can name Doctor, I can name Doc, I can name Hugh Jackman.
Fair.
You know what I'm saying?
And
I got at least 2 of my arsenal.
We see post Wano at the start of Egghead, just so we're in a place where both manga readers and anime watchers both have an understanding of where Luffy is at in his journey. So if you're not caught up, I'll be bringing up some pretty major spoilers, particularly for One Piece at this point. Yeah. I'll quickly cover what each of these characters can do. I'm sure most of you watching this are reasonably familiar with Ben 10, but pretty simply he has the Omnitrix, an alien device that allows him to transform into an enormous range of alien transformations, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. We'll discuss those transformations a bit more in depth as we get further into this. Yeah. Well, Luffy, for those of you who...
I can actually tell now that I'm hearing it, because there's a difference between an Australian and like English. I'll say English, right? People from England or Britain, English accent. Because the way he says E is different. Because I used to watch the Blue Banana podcast, which has Manu, who is like German. He does One Piece content. Another girl that does One Piece content, I think her name's literally Joy Girl, and she's Australian. And it's like the way they say their E's and stuff. You can tell there's Vegemite present. I don't know if that's disrespectful or not, but I just know like it's like an Australia thing, Vegemite.
We'll discuss those transformations a bit more in depth as we get further into this.
Yeah, the
While
E.
Luffy, for those of you who aren't familiar, his abilities boil down to 2 factors. The first being that he's a devil fruit user, originally thought to be the Gomu Gomu no Mi, but in the current story we know it's actually the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika, being a mythical zone with the powers of the sun god Nika. We'll touch on that more later, but for now, he has the ability to stretch, deflect any blunt force damage like from punches or bullets, and possibly most relevant to this encounter, is immune to electrical attacks, but is vulnerable to being submerged in water. And the other source of Luffy's powers come from a one-piece power system called Haki. This comes down to Conqueror's Haki that allows you to assert your willpower against other opponents, Armament Haki that lets you coat your skin.
I don't know about how this water stuff goes, because Oda had said that it's only kind of in their verse because the sea god basically curses devil fruit users, right? So when people are going like, oh, well, Oda said pretty much anybody of water can do it, it's like, yeah, but like, where do you think the water comes from? The water that's in the sea, where does it come from, right? Most likely the sky, or, you know, fault, like not fault lines, but like reservoirs underground, like breaking and rupturing up, right? So the seawater came from somewhere, but as we know, with evaporation and all the processes that occur, right, of the water system, the cycle of water, the water cycle, that's what they call it, what I call a cycle of water. That seawater is what they eventually kind of filter and make drinking water and like bath water and all of that. And to filter it, they just kind of remove like the salt. They purify it, but it still has the same properties of like the water that rejects devil fruit users. So like people, now I seen a video about Naruto and about how like the water they generate isn't even water. It's like chakra with like a water aspect to it. So it's literally just pure chakra, which is why people with Otsutsuki abilities who can absorb chakra can absorb like chakra based jutsu, like their water jutsu, but they can't absorb literal water. It's the same reason Sasuke was throwing shuriken coated in lightning, because you can't absorb shuriken, but you can absorb the lightning. You know, you feel me? And if the shuriken are metal, they're going to carry the electric charge anyway. So chakra outside of it, it already is now electrically charged more than like it normally would be. So when it comes to water, I know people like to use that as like a, oh yeah, I just need to move him and throw him into water, I win. Or like, I can manipulate water, I win. If we are like, that's the craziest thing though, because back when power scaling was a huge thing, there's like verse equalization that people talk about. But if we're saying they're put in a random spot and they're fighting, the devil fruit's weakness doesn't exist. So it's like, kind of take that out of your mind and go to box. It's kind of like, for example, if Superman's boxing someone not from DC, let's just say they're in a random room, they're boxing. Kryptonite doesn't exist. You might as well take that weakness off of like your list. Versus like weaknesses like Viltrumites, like the frequency, or like their ears, their equilibriums, what controls their flight. That is something that, if put in a random place, that weakness still exists. But weakness tied to objects that are only in verse, if you're talking about a cross battle, one, the other character doesn't know this weakness exists. Two, the other character have to find out this weakness exists. And three, when it's like a resource, they don't know that resource exists.
Skin, make it more durable and able to affect other devil fruit users who could otherwise just not be damaged.
Yeah.
And observation haki, which has a bunch of other applications, but basically comes down to being especially observant, and in Luffy's case, being able to see slightly into the future. This is an absolutely condensed butchering of these abilities, but that's the gist of things. There's also Luffy's gears, which goes as follows. Gear 2 that increases his speed and strength by pumping his blood faster. Gear 3 where Luffy blows air into his bones, inflating body parts for larger, more powerful attacks. Gear 4, and really ramping up here, there's a few versions of this form, but he coats...
I'm pretty sure, like, physically, his attacks should get weaker. Because, increasing the area reduces the force. Like, force is equal to pressure over area. That's why bullets are so dangerous. But I think Luffy is also making his arm way more, because his arm is, like, growing inside. Realistically, it's air. So it's, like, it's not way that much more, but it's, an anime. It's like, now his fist weighs more, so it can do more damage. It's not something you can think about necessarily logically when it comes to like things like that where mass is being created.
There's parts of his body with armament haki. This is giving him a major power boost, and for the sake of keeping this video streamlined, we'll be covering the Boundman form of Gear 4. I don't really see which version of Gear 4 we choose as all too relevant. And with Gear 5, we'll touch on that once we're properly into things.
Like
as far as how this fight actually plays out, I'm going into this as fairly as possible. American football field rules. They're on a neutral, flat playing ground. There's no outside help or equipment outside of what they'd normally have on them. The actors are usually would, seeing each other as opponents, but wouldn't act any differently than they would in any other given combat situation. Simply put,
this is important because people were like, Goku's just gonna speed blitz and erase his opponent. That's not how Goku fights.
They're behaving as they would in line with their character. Ben would work out pretty quickly that blunt force attacks aren't going to be all that effective. Though I'm sure this will be a process of elimination, cycling through physically tougher aliens over time.
Yeah.
If at random Ben were to try using
Ben
water
is a
hazard, that's
tactician.
another story, and things will go pretty sideways for Luffy quite quickly.
See, I knew we would get here. I knew we would get here. They are not weak to like water. They're weak to the sea. Like even when Luffy fought Crocodile, he became Water Man. Like he had drunk all the water and spit it out at Crocodile. His powers didn't weaken or stop working, or else he wouldn't have been able to drink so much water. You feel me? It's like regular water. It's not. I'm not trying to get like too heated about it or anything, but it's like it's such a like thing that like it's kind of niche and like come on, that's not. And it's one thing if like it was true, like oh all water cooks them, and then I'm like just like nitpicking here, and I'm like oh that's too easy of a win, like that's just a win con, blah 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 blah. But literally speaking, it's like the particular water and their verse. But I see everyone saying this. It's not like a dog thing. Everyone like is under the impression that water is just like their hard counter.
Water hazard being able to shoot and control water, Luffy's only major weakness. Not
and unlike Naruto and them, this is like actual water because this is someone who's using water, not chakra.
Would be aware of that at first. And given that all of his more physical aliens aren't doing much to Luffy, seeing as his body is impervious to non-haki hits.
He also, forget being impervious to non-haki hits, he also, one, haki can protect him from sharp objects, but two, Moria crushed him to like paper and he still got back up.
They would be cycling through aliens who can attack in other ways, which picking water hazard amongst these forms seems pretty likely.
Yes,
particularly once
plausible.
Ben works out that his electrical aliens won't affect Luffy at all.
Yeah.
The electricity won't work on Luffy in the slightest, which limits us quite a bit
Electricity
here.
or
So removing
power,
any
like
aliens that use
power.
purely physical force or have electrical abilities limits us pretty majorly.
Yeah, like water,
Forearms,
fire.
Humongousaur, Wrath, even Waybig's physical attacks won't affect Luffy beyond physically moving him around. It's not a strength limit, it's simply that he's rubber.
Yeah.
And while that takes a good chunk of alien transformations out of the equation, you've still got some pretty standout aliens I can really see hurting Luffy. As the fight continues on and Ben starts actually affecting Luffy, I'm seeing Luffy work his way through his gears pretty quickly. Most of this fight would involve Ben cycling through aliens against a Gear 4 Luffy. As far as Ben's viable transformations go, NRG, Atomics, Waybig, Jet Ray, or even Heat Blast all come to mind. There's a lot more than that, but those are the first ones that popped in my head.
Oh yeah, so Wayback can do the energy blast, from what I remember.
Otherwise, Ghost Freak or Pesky Dust would probably be pretty effective.
Yeah,
Big Chill as well, but I'm not thinking Ice holds Luffy back for too long. And like I said with Pesky Dust, that's a pretty quick win for Ben.
The only problem is it's like hard to quantify Armagi.
Though I wonder if Luffy's willpower would somehow snap him out of the trance. The scenario I'm seeing here would have Ben transforming into Gravitak, pinning Luffy down, and inevitably you'd hear the drums of liberation, with Luffy getting right back up in Gear 5. In this form, Luffy's awakened and not only stronger, but he can now manipulate and transform both himself and the environment, kind of functioning like a Looney Tunes-esque Toon Force, and he can somewhat do anything he sees fit. What makes it difficult is just trying to limit what Luffy can do here.
Yeah,
I want to make an argument for clockwork, reverting time or erasing Luffy from history, but I can see Luffy grabbing and bending that time ray back at him, or Luffy jumping on top of clockwork, twisting his headpiece, sending them both backwards or forwards in time. Though this isn't to say that Luffy can't be hit by attacks and can't be hurt. Yeah. And Luffy's stamina in this form tends to run out pretty quickly. I'm thinking Ben as Waybig could feasibly throw Gear 5 Luffy into space, but what's to stop him from boomeranging back to Earth? I'm thinking like one-on-one, eventually Luffy gets tired out and reverts to his base form, and really pick an alien within reason from there, and they beat Luffy. If you're dissatisfied with that, I brought on friend of the channel and resident anime enjoyer, Tyland, to give his take on this topic.
Just wanted to say thanks to Wardy for allowing me to go ahead and discuss some of my 2 favorite verses in all of fiction. As you guys may know from my channel, I have scaled Luffy and Ben 10 countless times, but to make it simple for you guys so you guys aren't going to listen to a snooze fest, Luffy's greatest feat was him being able to pretty much make a punch the size of Onigashima and shift the island itself. Based on not only the size of the Onigashima punch, but also the kinetic energy behind the attack, Luffy's attack potency should come out to around multi-continental to potentially even small planetary. For reference, Ben's mid-tier aliens, or pretty much any of the top-tier aliens that are ultimate level or above, should single-handedly be able to take care of Luffy pretty easily. The reason for this is because Ultimate Aggregor would pretty much be unfazed from a nuclear fusion bomb that can cover...
Yeah, that's the one thing about Ben 10. They have like the durability and the AP. The only thing Luffy had going for him was like the physical, like durability and stuff. And like I don't know how we would bring Haki into this conversation because Ben 10's verse I think scales way faster when it comes to speed on average. So it's like they'd be around the same speed, if not Ben speed blitzing with certain aliens. So Future Sight could be helpful, but I don't know how armament will play in.
For over 2.5 light years. This would mean a grenade that can cover the range of a sword.
It doesn't really matter though, because no one in One Piece has like the AP to show that armament can block that, if that makes sense.
Solar system would do no damage to Agrigor. And yet we've seen even base Humongosaur visibly do damage to Agrigor. And of course, Ultimate Humongosaur, Ultimate Echo, and any of the aliens that Ben uses on Kevin 11 should be applicable here because Kevin 11 absorbed Agrigor's power on top of his own. Which, by the way, on his own, he was already more than enough to handle Ultimate Agrigor with no difficulty. I think it's pretty obvious to say that most of the Ben 10 alien Agrigor with no difficulty.
Too? Hold
on his own, he was already more than enough to handle
I think that will be his
Agrigor.
The plumber dude that like supposed to be his pop that got retconned. Nope, just another Osmos.
I think it's pretty obvious to say that most of the Ben 10 aliens are able to dispose of Gear 5 Luffy, and you know, I don't think Gear 5 Luffy's invincible and he's omnipotent. And if you do think that, well then Alien X. But if you guys wanted me to get a little bit more specific with the aliens that can bypass the rubber properties of Luffy's fruit, any alien that can use cutting or slash attacks should be able to at least bypass Luffy's durability. And even despite Luffy's seemingly invincible devil fruit, he's still susceptible to radiation, possession, and a lot of other hacks that Ben can easily exploit. It's safe to say the future king of the pirates gets folded by a 10-year-old, which is honestly kind of funny in hindsight.
Though the real ending here, and the one I had decided on well before I started writing this video, this ends with the two of them sharing a meal together. There is no world where this isn't the outcome. After so many arcs or major moments in the story of One Piece, they've celebrated with a feast. And Luffy as a character has such an infectious charm to him. I'm seeing both Ben and Luffy enjoying.
Especially because Ben is not gonna beat him and like bully him or like, you know, Ben's gonna win and then be like, "Hey, that was a good fight, man."
Together,
as long
probably
as
Mr. Smoothies,
Luffy's not a
with
threat,
Luffy clearing out the place, even out of house and home. And a major thanks to Thailand for appearing in this video. His channel's linked in the description.
Shout out Doc, man. Top 2 Aussies. You know what I'm saying? My favorite Australian YouTuber. As always, Discord comment is linked down in the description. I hope you guys join. I hope to see you join the community and hear from some of y'all from like, you know, direct messages, the general chat. As always, this was another reaction from the boy. And yeah, you know, time to find me next. Peace.